Last league introduced Poisonous Concoction of Bouncing, which quickly became one of my favorite skills. It's also a very strong option as a league starter. This build isn't much different than the build that I played last league, it has a lot of the same mechanics, and really only lost two things: a Divine Blessing Aura, which we are using as haste, and Ancestral Protector. To account for that, this skill did receive a small amount of flat chaos damage, which did increase the damage slightly. With the changes I've made to this build, it's now going to be slightly cheaper since we won't need a Dawnbreaker while only losing a little bit of EHP. It also does 3 million more damage than the last version since we're able to run a focus mod on our helmet instead of running the Fizz Taken As mod. This build is using Tanu, which is one of the most busted gloves in the game. All you do is degen yourself with Blood Rage, and while you leech to full HP, you gain Onslaught and Adrenaline. It's important to point out that you level your Vitality to the point where you're only degenning a small amount. That way your Blood Rage is always degenning you slightly, and it's always causing you to proc Tanu as consistent as possible. Now obviously, Poisonous Concoction is a transfigured gem, so you won't be able to get it early, and it will likely be pricey early as well. But for all of leveling into white maps, you don't need it. Regular Poisonous Concoction is more than fine. I just suggest playing it with greater volley and not using both volley and GMP, since it will be easier to sustain flash charges that way. While leveling, the only movement skill that you gain access to currently are Dash and Smoke Mine. Both of these are suboptimal after the changes to left click mine detonation last league. Basically, you can no longer have mine detonate on your left click, making it way more annoying to play Smoke Mine. Now you're going to have to press 2 buttons, which kind of defeats the purpose of playing that skill. If you want to, you can get both Shield Charge and Flame Dash in the library quest in Act 3, or ask a friend for them earlier. If you aren't trying to go super fast, you could decide to wait till Act 6, but this will make you significantly slower. When leveling this build, the single biggest thing you can do is upgrade your flask every single act. This is where a lot of the damage from this build comes from, and if you're struggling, it's probably because you haven't upgraded your flask recently. For those of you that haven't played this skill, I'll go through how the skill actually works. Instead of throwing all of your flask at once, like regular Poisonous Concoction, you throw one of them and then it chains for the amount of projectiles you have. So if you have 8 projectiles, you'll throw 1 projectile and then it will bounce 7 times. It also has a flat cost instead of scaling off of how many projectiles you have. So anything over 8 projectiles is basically free, whereas with regular Poisonous Concoction, if you scaled more than 8 projectiles, then it will cost more based off of how many projectiles that you have. So if you have 10 projectiles, it will cost 10, and so forth. When you hit only one enemy with this skill, the skill shotguns over and over almost instantly, hitting for all of the projectiles, and that's what makes this build incredibly strong. You apply a ton of poison super fast, and on top of that, it seems to have some form of tracking, so you can play this skill at a much more safe pace than regular Poisonous Concoction. Instead of having to aim, you can just get it close, and then most of the projectiles will hit. Whereas with normal Poisonous Concoction, if the boss isn't in the middle of your attack, it's very hard to apply max poison. That's pretty much it for this build. Poisonous Concoction of Bouncing is one of the most satisfying skills in the game, and will be one of the best league starters. I plan on playing this build as my league starter, and then swapping to something different, probably around maps. And if that build is good, expect for an update or a guide for that build. But for now, I hope you guys have a great league start, and if you like the video, leave a like. Thanks for watching.